She was starving, but still gave her last piece of bread to a stranger. What he did next changed her life forever. The cold wind moved through the narrow streets like it had somewhere important to be. Unlike most of the people who lived there, it was the kind of evening where the sky looked tired, painted in dull gray, and the air carried the quiet weight of struggle. At the corner of a broken sidewalk sat a young girl named Amara. She couldn't have been more than 10. Her clothes were clean but worn out, the kind of clean that comes from effort, not comfort. Her shoes had small cracks and her fingers were slightly red from the cold. But her eyes still held something rare. Hope. Not the loud kind, not the kind that shines bright, but the quiet kind, the kind that refuses to die. In her small hand, she held a piece of bread. It wasn't fresh, it wasn't warm, it wasn't enough, but it was all she had. Amara stared at it for a moment longer than usual. Her stomach had been empty since the night before. The kind of hunger that doesn't just sit in your belly, it creeps into your thoughts, slows your steps, and makes everything feel heavier than it should. She could eat it right now. No one would blame her. No one was even watching. But before she could take a bite, something caught her attention. Across the street, near an old street lamp that flickered like it might give up any second, stood a man. He looked different, not just poor, not just tired, but lost. His coat was too thin for the weather, and his hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. His face carried the kind of silence that said he had stopped asking for help a long time ago. People passed by him, fast, avoiding eye contact, pretending not to notice, like he wasn't there. Amara watched carefully. She had seen this before, not the man, but the way people treated him. Like invisible problems were easier to ignore. Her fingers tightened slightly around the bread. Her stomach growled again, louder this time. For a second, she looked away. This wasn't her problem. She was just a kid. She had her own struggles. But then, something inside her didn't agree. It wasn't logic. It wasn't even kindness. It was something deeper, something that didn't ask questions. Her feet moved before her mind could stop her. Step by step, she crossed the street. The wind felt colder now, or maybe it was just fear. She wasn't sure what she was doing. She wasn't even sure what she would say. But she kept walking. The man didn't notice her at first. He was staring at the ground, like he had forgotten the world existed above it. Amara stopped a few steps away from him. Her heart was beating fast now. Not from running, from something else, something unfamiliar. She looked at the bread in her hand one last time. This was it. Her only food, her only comfort. For today. Maybe even tomorrow. She swallowed quietly. Then slowly, she held it out toward him. Here, she said softly. The man didn't move, didn't react. For a moment, it felt like time had paused. Then he looked up. His eyes met hers, and something shifted. Not outside. Inside. He looked at the bread, then back at her. Confusion, surprise, disbelief. Why? He asked, his voice rough and quiet. Amara didn't have an answer ready. She wasn't prepared for the question, so she said the only thing that felt true. You look like you need it more. The wind passed between them again, but this time, it felt different. The man stared at her for a long second, like he was trying to understand something he had forgotten a long time ago. Slowly, he reached out. His hands trembled slightly as he took the bread. He didn't eat it immediately. Instead, he held it carefully, like it meant more than just food. Thank you, he said. 2 simple words, but they carried weight. The kind of weight you don't hear often. Amara nodded slightly. She didn't smile. She didn't wait. She just turned around and began to walk away. Her stomach was still empty. The cold was still there. Nothing had changed. Or at least, that's what she thought. Behind her, the man watched her leave, and for the first time in a long time, he smiled. Not because of the bread, but because of what it meant. Something had just happened. Something small, something quiet, but powerful enough to change everything. Amara didn't know it yet, but the stranger she had just helped was not an ordinary man. Amara walked slowly down the street, her small steps echoing softly against the empty pavement. The cold hadn't changed. Her hunger hadn't disappeared, but something inside her felt lighter. She didn't understand why. Maybe it was the way the man had looked at her. Maybe it was the way he said thank you, like it actually meant something. Still, reality came back quickly. By the time she reached the narrow alley where she lived, the sky had already darkened. A single dim light flickered outside her small home, if it could even be called that. It was more like a shelter made from effort and survival. She pushed the wooden door open gently. Inside, the room was quiet. Too quiet. "Mom?" she called softly. No response. Her heart tightened a little. This wasn't unusual, but it never felt normal either. Her mother worked long hours, cleaning, washing, doing anything she could to earn a little money. Some nights she came back late. Some nights, even later, Amara sat down in the corner, pulling her knees close to her chest. Her stomach growled again, louder this time. She closed her eyes, trying to ignore it. Tomorrow will be better, she whispered to herself. She always said that, even when she wasn't sure. The man stood still under the flickering streetlight long after Amara had disappeared. The piece of bread was still in his hand, untouched. Cars passed. People moved. The city continued its routine. But for him, time felt different. Slow. Heavy. He looked at the bread again, then carefully broke a small piece and ate it. Not like someone who was starving, but like someone who was remembering something he had lost. His eyes closed briefly, and then something changed. The tired look on his face didn't disappear, but it shifted. replaced by focus, by awareness. He straightened his posture slightly, then reached into his coat. From the outside, it looked like an old, worn pocket. But what came out didn't match the image. A small, sleek phone. Clean, modern, expensive. He held it for a second, like he was deciding something important. Then he pressed a button. The screen lit up instantly. No hesitation. No delay. Within seconds, the phone rang. Once. Twice. Then, "Sir?" a voice answered immediately. Sharp. Alert. The man didn't speak right away. He looked down the street one last time, in the direction Amara had gone, then calmly said, "Prepare the car." The voice on the other end paused for a fraction of a second. "Location, sir?" The man's eyes narrowed slightly. A small smile formed, but this time it wasn't warm. It was controlled. "I'll send it." Call ended. A black car turned into the street. Not loud, not flashy, but powerful. The kind of car that didn't need attention. It commanded it. It stopped exactly where the man stood. The door opened. A sharply dressed driver stepped out, quickly walking toward him. "Sir," he said respectfully, lowering his head slightly. The man nodded. No words, no explanations. He stepped into the car. As the door closed, the outside world disappeared. Inside, everything was different. Warm, silent, controlled. The man leaned back slightly. The piece of bread was still in his hand. He looked at it again, carefully, almost thoughtfully. Then he said quietly, "Find her." The driver didn't question it. "Name, sir?" The man paused. He didn't know. He hadn't asked. For a brief moment, something unusual crossed his face. Regret. Then he spoke again. "The girl, around 10, lives near this street." The driver nodded. "It will be done." Back to Amara. That night felt longer than usual. Amara lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. Her stomach still hurt. Her body felt weak. But her mind was awake. She kept thinking about the man. The way he looked. The way he spoke. The way he accepted the bread. It didn't feel like a normal moment. It felt important, but she didn't know why. Eventually, exhaustion won. Her eyes slowly closed, and silence filled the room. Sunlight broke through the small cracks in the wall, gently lighting up the room. Amara woke up slowly. For a second, she forgot everything. Then her stomach reminded her. Reality returned. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. Her mother still wasn't home. That worried her, but she had learned not to panic too quickly. She stood up and stepped outside. The street looked the same. People rushing, cars passing, life moving forward, like nothing had changed. But then, something caught her attention. At the end of the street, a car, black, shiny, out of place. Very out of place. Amara frowned slightly. Cars like that didn't come here. Ever. She took a small step forward, then another, her curiosity slowly pulling her closer. The car door opened. A man stepped out. Not the same man from last night. This one looked official. Clean suit, straight posture, serious expression. He looked around briefly, then his eyes landed on her. Directly, like he had been searching for her. Amara froze. Her heart started beating faster. The man walked toward her, step by step. Calm, controlled. "Are you Amara?" he asked. Her eyes widened. "How do you know my name?" The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gave a slight nod. "Someone would like to meet you." A strange feeling filled the air. Not fear, not exactly, but something close to it. Amara hesitated. Her instincts told her to be careful, but something else told her this moment mattered. "Who?" she asked quietly. The man stepped slightly to the side and gestured toward the car. Inside, a figure was sitting, waiting, watching. Amara couldn't see his face clearly, but something about his presence felt familiar. Very familiar. Her breath slowed. Her steps became cautious. As she moved closer to the car, her mind raced. Questions, doubts, curiosity, all at once. Then, the figure inside leaned forward slightly. Light touched his face. And in that exact moment, Amara's eyes widened in shock, because she recognized him. It was him, the same man, the stranger from last night. But now, everything about him was different. Amara froze. Her eyes locked onto the man sitting inside the car. It was him, the same tired, quiet stranger from last night. But everything else had changed. The broken look, gone. The shaking hands, still. The silence, different. Now, it wasn't emptiness. It was control, power, presence. Amara's heart started beating faster. Her mind struggled to connect the two images. "How?" she whispered under her breath. The car door slowly opened. The man stepped out. This time his movements were steady, confident, intentional. No hesitation. No weakness. He stood in front of her. The same man she had helped, yet not the same at all. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The street, usually filled with noise, felt strangely quiet, like the world itself was watching. "You came," Amara said softly, still unsure what was happening. A faint smile appeared on his face. "Yes," he replied calmly. I told you nothing, but you gave me everything." Amara didn't understand. Her brows furrowed slightly. "I just gave you bread," she said. The man shook his head gently. "No," he said. "You gave me something much more rare." He paused. Something deeper moved through his expression. Not sadness, not happiness. Something in between. Kindness, without reason. The wind passed again, but this time it carried warmth. The suited man who had brought Amara stepped back respectfully. The black car stood quietly behind them, no longer just a vehicle, but a symbol. of something bigger. The stranger looked at Amara carefully. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. Amara slowly shook her head. He took a small breath. "My name is Daniel Hayes. You can change name if you want for your channel style. I own multiple companies, businesses, investments across the country." Amara blinked. She didn't fully understand what that meant, but she understood one thing. He wasn't poor, not even close. "Then why were you there?" she asked. Her voice carried genuine confusion. The man looked away for a brief second, like he was remembering something difficult. "I needed to see something," he said quietly. "Something real? The hidden reason," he continued. "For years, I built everything. Money, power, success." His voice was calm and but heavy, but somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing people. Amara listened silently. "I started wondering," he continued, "if kindness still existed when there was nothing to gain." He looked back at her directly, and last night, I got my answer. Amara's eyes slowly softened. She didn't realize it, but her small decision had meant something far bigger than she thought. "I was hungry too," she said quietly, almost like a confession. The man's expression changed instantly. For the first time, guilt appeared. "You gave me your last food, even when you needed it," he said. Amara looked down. "It's okay," she whispered. "I thought you needed it more." Those simple words hit harder than anything else. The man took a slow breath, then nodded, as if making a decision. He gestured slightly. The suited man stepped forward and handed Amara a small envelope. She looked at it, confused. "Take it," the stranger said gently. She hesitated. "I don't want money," she said honestly. The man smiled. "This isn't just money." Her fingers slowly opened the envelope. Inside, there were documents, official papers. Her eyes moved across them slowly. She didn't fully understand, but she caught a few words. Education sponsorship, full support, housing assistance. Her hands started to shake slightly. "What is this?" she asked. The man stepped closer, not as a powerful figure, but as someone grateful. "It's a chance," he said. "A chance for you and your mother to never struggle like this again." Amara's eyes filled with tears. Not loud tears, quiet ones. The kind that come from relief, from disbelief, from something too big to process. The man looked at her one last time. "You changed something in me," he said, "and I won't forget that." Amara wiped her eyes gently. "But I didn't do anything special." The man smiled softly. "That's where you're wrong." He paused, then said the line that defines the entire story. "The smallest kindness can come from the poorest hands, but it can change the richest hearts." The car door opened again, but this time, it wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Amara took one last look at the street, the same place where she once had nothing, and then stepped forward, not into luxury, but into a new life. She gave her last piece of bread and received a future she never imagined.